All information shared in this video is our educated opinion, formulated from research, judgment, analysis, education, and personal life experience. Any material used from the public domain follows fair use guidelines and applicable laws. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. This content is for education and entertainment. We encourage others to conduct proper research and, if needed, consult an attorney for legal advice regarding music licensing.
Welcome to SyncRiffs. Good to have you guys back. I'm Charles Levan from Blue Buddha, Sync Agent, and joined by my co-host Chase Walker. How's it going, Chase?
Hey, it's good to be here.
Another episode, and we got some great emails from last time. We were talking about pitch and party songs for various scenes, and today we're going to unpack. We're going to jump right into it. Love songs. What falling in and out of love. There's, you name it, your rom-coms, your films, commercials, trailers, couples holding hands, walking down the beach. They're at the Palace of Fine Arts in San Francisco. So all that imagery comes to mind and to play. So when we pitch songs for those types of scenes, the lyrics and the music have to sync up to picture in a very specific way. And that kind of sets the table. Chase, if you want to talk about what kind of lyrics are they let's start with, falling in love, and things are great.
Yeah. So definitely, when it comes to love songs, there's the full spectrum of like new love to love that lasts forever to heartbreak to cheating songs. You know what I mean? And the main consistent through line across everything that has to do with love is that the lyrics aren't so specific to any one given situation, any one specific love story. And the way to do that, well, let me backtrack a little bit. The tendency for most writers when they're writing a love song is to establish a situational context for this love story. Like, we met in a bar, you gave me that look from across the room, you know what I mean? Like those kinds of lyrics. Those kinds of lyrics tend to be counterproductive toward being highly placeable because they're very specific to like a specific story. And so as much as possible, when you're writing, especially love music, but really any music when it comes to sync, if your lyric writing tends to be very imagery based, try and put that imagery into what the emotions are, how you feel about it. What are the things you can describe that are not so physical and grounded in like a reality sense, more like what's the ethereal, like how can you say something without saying it, essentially. And that allows you to not only express the emotional gravity of what you're talking about in more detail, but it also allows you, it allows your song to be more applicable to a wider variety of contexts while still speaking to the same emotions.
Yeah, that's, I think some examples, and tying in what you said, Chase, as well, of not being dead on too specific is, as great as the Beatles tune Michelle My Belle, if your girlfriend or wife, if you state her name in the song and then the characters up on picture, it doesn't, that prevents us from pitching that tune out of the box. So like 100%. You said, just what's, doing lyrics that are not too specific, dead on the nose.
Yeah, it's one of those things that like you can have like such a great, such a well-established song between the vibe of the music and the vibe of the vocals and everything, and everything could be fitting so perfectly to whatever scene the supervisor is considering it for. But then when your lyric hits a particular person's name, all of a sudden the supervisor knows for a certain that they can't use that. And so I can imagine it's something that just bugs the heck out of many supervisors when they get songs that are like oh, the vibe here is so right, but then they had to go and use someone's name, or they had to say, oh, we're in my Chevy pickup or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
so the more you can avoid that, you know, the more likely your chances are.
No, yeah, and to tie that in, preparing for this podcast today, looking at past briefs, one other brief that we often get is, the love song that's going to play at a wedding scene. So you have the bride and her father dancing. So a love between a father and a daughter. The lyrics aren't, it's specific to that. It's not between a couple. So the
Right.
love that he has for his daughter. So, we get that brief that comes through often, and that's very specific, and the sound of the arrangement and the music, the instruments played with the lyrics. Do you want to talk, Chase, about making sure those things are matched up?
Definitely. And just to back up to that father daughter type scene, it's not a very easy thing to do. It's definitely easier said than done. But when it comes to love songs, the more that you can make your love song less specific to a particular kind of relationship, again, the more applicable it's going to be. So you could have a song that's about your girlfriend, but if it's not so specific about girlfriend type relationships and feelings that it could be about a father daughter relationship, there's nothing that's holding it back from getting in that kind of placement. But
yeah, therein lies the challenge of, as a sync agent, finding that right song.
Absolutely. The other thing that plays a huge factor in not only love material but all material across the board in sync is how cohesive the message that the music is sending with the message that the lyrics are sending. And that's something that can come down to the type of chords you're using in your song, the type of builds and rises and lifts or um, lack thereof, as well as the type of instrumentation that you're using. So, if you're wanting to write something that has a very intimate feeling to it, you might want to go for a more minimalistic type production. But then at the same time, you got to make sure that your lyrics, if you're going for an intimate sort of thing, that your lyrics are intimate. And again, that's kind of counterintuitive to keeping them from being specific, but still, if you can hone in on that specificity in the emotion and not the story of your song, then you can write a multitude of emotions that are applicable across the spectrum. And inversely, if you want to write something that is a love song that's more exciting, you might want a greater number of layers in your production to have, things coming at you from all sides sonically, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it just, Nora Jones, Coldplay, the accompaniment between their vocals and then the piano, that warmth of the piano. And then, like you said, if you bring in, say, violins or strings arrangements on top of the piano, creating that additional layer of warmth. Are there certain chords, Chase, that, evoke more a certain feeling of melancholy? I'm sure there are, right? How does that work?
Absolutely. And like harmony, chordal harmony is like a whole, it gets very deep as far as that goes. If anyone is like really interested in like learning a whole lot more about chordal harmony, listen to Jacob Collier, because he's like literally has taken that as far as it's ever gone in the musical space, in my opinion. But certainly there are, if you're using predominantly major chords, it's going to sound happier and more grounded, more like, if you're using big open country chords, A, G, D, C, you know what I'm saying? It's going to feel very grounded and at home, let's say. Inversely, there are, if you're using mostly minor chords, if you're using mostly sevenths and diminished type chords in your transitions in the song, then it's going to have much more of that mysterious kind of dissonance kind of feel. But like I said, it goes super deep. There's a lot of theory involved with it, so it's not necessarily something I can give a full explanation to right this second. But that the answer is yes. And there's actually in Nashville, where I went to college, there's a whole system based around this idea, which is called the Nashville numbers system. And essentially, it's numbering each of the chords that relate to a specific key as to how they function in the chord progression of a song, tonally.
Yeah, no. And I think that's something in the future, to thread the needle on that we're going to offer up, whether it's, workshopping songs with songwriters, giving our feedback in that area, or, if someone's stuck on it and they need a top line melody, working with Jason. Also, at the end of this month, we're going to bring in one of our label reps from a label where he can listen to songs, give his feedback on, when he's doing A&R, what tracks he's looking for. And a good setup, April 19th, 10 a.m. Jason and I are going to be offering a free Sync 101 mini panel, webisode. We'll post up the waitlist page down in the link below. Basically, if you sign up before April 10th, you'll have access to the playback for a full week. And to make things, what people's appetite, interest in the panel, it's Chase, myself, and also peer review. What we're going to do is select at random 3 artists to submit their songs for a future listening playback Zoom, where between the artist and myself and Chase, we're going to give feedback on your songs, how sync friendly it is. So that's a great incentive to, join in on this free panel. And going back to the love interest, Nora Jones, Corinne Billy Ray, Coldplay, some artists that jump off into my head of, their songs and the vibe of their music that just puts you in a space of, oh man, love is great, things are great. What artists, what jumps out at you if, say you got a basic brief that said, hey, we need that classic love song, a couple's walking down the beach holding hands. If not an independent artist we're working with, Chase, but say you had any artist you could pick from, a female singer-songwriter artist.
Female singer-songwriters, man. Well, I mean, like you said, Nora Jones is definitely a heavy hitter. As far as some more contemporary artists, man, her name is escaping me right now. She wrote a song called Issues. Hold on. I'm going to find it.
I know who you know about.
Julia Michaels.
Yes.
Julia Michaels. That's like right in the sweet spot as far as songs go. And that's a really great example of like Issues, actually. That song is a really great example of how you can write a song that is loaded with imagery, but it's centric to the emotional side of it and not what the story is between her and her boyfriend. It's centric to the fact that they both have issues. You know what I mean? And that's applicable to any kind of relationship where there's issues, coming up, which is every relationship. So
yeah, no, her, and I think, her voice is unique in that, when she was putting out that track, there was no one that really occupied that lane, and that song just checked off all the boxes for sync. And similarly, I'm just pulling up, Adele, obviously her first record, those tracks, all the emotion you could, that she evoked in her songs. Hello, Lionel Richie. Is it you who I'm looking for? That hook and setting up the track. A lot of the rom com, love interest scenes, Love Actually, a lot of those films looking for that perfect love interest tune. So that's a good template. If people are looking for, what makes a great love interest tune, that's where, as an independent artist, you can do your homework and reverse engineer those types of films. What tracks did they use? And you can find it on TuneFind. You listen to tracks, and that's kind of the roadmap of what worked in the past. What might work in the future is going to be similar, because those themes and those scenes are going to come up. Same within a trailer. We can spend a few minutes. When you look at a feature film, and trailers is a whole nother lane. How a film trailer is set up to capture parts of that film to pique your interest, and what music they use in that. In a future episode, we're gonna have Troy McCubbin from Alloy Tracks. He owns a trailer house, and he wrote the song that was used in Stranger Things. They remixed a track, and we'll talk more about that. But he's going to be on talking about what they do, writing custom pieces for a trailer. Great guy. Great. Worked with him for a minute. He used to play guitar, Chase, in the band
Nice.
Tattoo.
Oh, right on, man. That's super
yeah. Way back. Troy's originally from Australia, and then I worked with him. He had a track called King for a Day, and we placed it in a song called Men in Trees on ABC, and that was in about 2000 or so. And then
Nice.
he pivoted from the artist side to forming his trailer house. He's been doing it for 12 years roughly, and he's been killing it, and he's going to lend a lot of expertise on film trailers. But yeah, I mean, I think feature films, the trailer songs, that song, it's got to sell the rom-com. It's got to sell the emotion of whether it's Love Actually, what other, any trailers? I'm trying to think. We get pitches sometimes for trailers. You want to talk about off the cuff on trailers and how that might differ for like a TV pitch?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, like you said, trailers are definitely a whole different world to the music that actually gets placed in the film or the show. It's often also an entirely different supervisor department. It very often is not the same supervisor placing all the same music in the show as who is placing for the trailer. And within that, trailers oftentimes have a different requirement for the momentum of the song and the trajectory and the build that the song has. Obviously, trailers are as diverse as the films and shows that they are for. Some of them can have multiple placements within the trailer. They can have a front end placement and a back end placement. And then other kinds of trailers, are looking for something that starts out minimalistic, like we were talking about with tracks that play over an intro, but then they have to be able to build to a climactic point that the trailer is progressing toward, and they have to follow that same energy that the trailer has toward that. And so there are several different ways to go about that. Obviously, like with action trailers, those are very homogenous. Like they're all very much the same kind of vibe and structure and energy and everything. With romantic trailers, especially romantic comedy trailers, there can be a pretty wide range of needs as far as that goes, because there's a lot more diversity in how they might market a project like that.
Yeah, no. And what jumped in my mind to thread the needle there, Chase, is, and if you guys haven't seen the film, but the trailer for Cocaine Bear, but they took White Lines, remixed it, and added some underscore to make it dark. And that trend of taking, whether it's 80s hip hop or 90s hip hop, and within the film, they used Depeche Mode, I Can't Just Get Enough, remix the track, and I'll pull up the notes for next time. But basically, there was one trailer house. They remixed those tracks. They had a relationship with Super for the film and for the trailer. They pitched it. They got the gig. And yeah, great. I mean, you know, same Donnie Darko, Mad World, Tears for Fears. You take a track like that, you flip it. And then there was a whole, if you can Google it, you can find all articles. They call it trailerization, taking songs and remixing it, if you will, that makes it specific, that works for a trailer. And because when you're seeing a theatrical trailer, they want to take a song that everybody knows. It has, you remember it, and then you remix it, and then it flips it. And then that trailer and the song, it sticks with you, and you want to see that film. You're like, whoa, what was that? That was killer. And that's a perfect example of the White Lines.
Definitely.
But, yeah, well summed up. And to set things up for next week, the next podcast, we're going to talk about the third bucket, songs about life. You know, what does that mean? Well, you got to tune in next week. Check it out. There's a lot to unpack there, but the sort of nugget there, you know, what's happening on picture on TV that is mirroring what's happening in one's life. So smash that like button, subscribe, and thank you for the comments and the notes. We'll share some comments next time, what folks are, you know, still learning about Sync 101 and what we do. So with that, namaste, catch you on the other side, and thank you so much for tuning in.
Go.